Hello, welcome to Learn English with Technology podcast series.
Episode 15.
Today we're diving into a fascinating idea,
Yeah.
using your daily commute to learn English.
It sounds counterintuitive, right?
Exactly.
Most people see traffic as wasted time.
But what if we could reframe that frustration and turn it into an opportunity?
That's what we're exploring today.
Right.
We'll uncover how you can transform your time in traffic into a productive period for improving your English skills.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Sure.
The first point we're going to look at is this idea that traffic time equals learning time.
Right.
We often think of learning as something that requires dedicated time
Yeah.
and a quiet environment. But research shows we can learn effectively during those in-between moments of our day.
Think about it.
Yeah.
The average commute is about 45 minutes each way.
Right.
That adds up to a lot of potential learning time over a week, a month, a year.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's like having a hidden language lab right there in our cars.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is that we're already doing the commute anyway.
Right.
It's about making the most of that existing time.
So instead of just zoning out or getting frustrated in traffic, we can actually be actively engaging our brains and improving our English skills.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Research has shown that our brains are actually primed to learn during transit.
Really?
Scientists call it transit state cognition.
Wait, so there's actually a scientific reason
Yeah.
why learning on the go works so well?
It's all about how our brains process information when we're in motion.
Okay.
When we're moving, our brains are more alert and receptive to new information. And because we're not focused on one specific task, our minds are more open to making connections and absorbing new knowledge.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like our brains are in this heightened state of awareness,
Precisely.
ready to soak up new things.
And think about your commute route.
Yeah.
It's probably the same every day, right?
Yeah, that's definitely true for me. I'm a creature of habit when it comes to my commute.
Well, this repetition is actually a huge advantage for learning.
Okay.
Your commute route can become what's known as a memory palace.
I've heard of memory palaces before,
Yeah.
but I always thought those were just for memory champions, not for everyday people like me.
Not at all. Anyone can create a memory palace.
Oh, okay.
It's simply a technique for associating information with specific locations.
Right.
And your commute route, with its familiar landmarks,
Yeah.
is the perfect foundation for building your own memory palace.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this works.
Yeah.
So instead of just zoning out as I drive past that big, colorful billboard,
Yeah.
I can use it as a trigger to practice descriptive vocabulary.
Right.
I could even make up a little story about it in my head.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
And then the next landmark could trigger a grammar review.
Right.
The one after that could be for practicing pronunciation.
So my entire commute becomes this interactive learning experience
Precisely.
where each landmark sparks a different learning activity.
And because you're traveling the same route regularly,
Yeah.
you're getting that all-important repetition.
Right.
Which is key for cementing those new language skills in your memory.
This is making me rethink my entire drive to work.
That's great.
I'm already starting to see my commute in a whole new light.
That's the power of shifting our perspective.
Right.
And here's another benefit of learning in traffic.
Okay.
It can actually help reduce road rage.
Really?
I know that might sound surprising,
Yeah, a little bit.
but there's a scientific explanation for it.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Okay?
How does learning English make me a calmer driver?
Well, when we're actively engaged in a learning activity,
Uh-huh.
our brains release dopamine,
Right.
which is a neurotransmitter that makes us feel good.
I see.
And when we feel good, we're less likely to get stressed out or frustrated.
So instead of getting all worked up about the traffic,
Yeah.
I'm actually getting a dopamine hit from practicing my English. That's brilliant.
And on the flip side, when we're stressed or angry,
Yeah.
our brains release cortisol,
Right.
which is a hormone that can impair cognitive function.
I see.
So not only is road rage bad for our mental health, it can actually hinder our ability to learn.
This is all starting to connect now.
Yeah.
By choosing to focus on learning and traffic,
Right.
we're creating a positive feedback loop in our brains.
Exactly.
We're releasing those feel-good chemicals,
Yeah.
reducing stress, and actually improving our ability to learn.
It's a win-win situation.
Awesome.
And this brings us to our next point,
Okay.
which is the science behind why short, focused learning sessions are so effective.
So we're talking about those little bursts of learning.
Yes.
We can squeeze in during red lights or traffic jams.
Precisely.
Okay.
Research has shown that these micro-learning sessions, which typically last just a few minutes, can be incredibly powerful for language acquisition.
I see.
And there are a few reasons for this.
Okay, let's dive into those reasons.
Okay.
Why are these short bursts of learning so effective?
Well, first of all, they play into our natural attention spans.
Right.
Our brains are wired to focus for short periods of time, and then we need a break. Yeah. And what better time to take a break than when we're forced to stop at a red light?
So instead of fighting against our natural rhythms, we're actually working with them.
Exactly. And these short breaks actually help our brains process and consolidate the information we've just learned.
I see.
It's like hitting the save button on our mental hard drive.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks.
So it's not just about cramming in as much information as possible.
Right.
It's about giving our brains the time and space they need to absorb and retain that information.
Precisely.
Okay.
And these micro-learning sessions also tap into the power of spaced repetition.
Right.
This is a learning technique where we revisit information at increasing intervals, which helps to strengthen our memory recall.
I've heard of spaced repetition before.
Yeah.
But I usually think of it in terms of flashcards or language learning apps.
Yeah.
How does it apply to learning in traffic?
Well, think about those red lights.
Okay.
They're like built-in spaced repetition intervals.
Oh.
You learn a few new words or grammar rules at one red light.
Right.
And then you have a few minutes to process that information before you hit the next one.
Right.
And then at that next red light, you can quickly review what you learned earlier.
So the stop-and-go pattern of traffic is actually creating the perfect conditions for spaced repetition learning.
Exactly.
I never thought of it that way before.
It's about seeing those patterns in our everyday lives and leveraging them to our advantage.
That's really cool.
And speaking of leveraging patterns, let's move on to the next point.
Right.
How we can use those red lights to create what we call red light power sessions.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
What exactly are red light power sessions? And how can I turn those frustrating stops into productive learning time?
Well, it's all about having a few go-to learning activities that you can do quickly and easily whenever you hit a red light.
Right.
And the beauty of it is that you don't need any fancy equipment or materials.
So I can literally tune my car into a mobile language lab.
Absolutely.
Wow.
You can practice vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, listening comprehension.
Right.
All within those 60 to 90 seconds.
Wow.
That a typical red light lasts.
I love that. Okay, give me some examples of specific activities I can do during these red light power sessions.
Well, one technique that's fun and engaging is the brand name game.
Okay.
Instead of just passively reading the names of cars and businesses as you drive, you can use them to practice vocabulary and grammar.
Oh, I'm game. How does it work?
Let's say you see a Honda Civic.
Yeah.
Instead of just thinking Honda Civic, you could challenge yourself to come up with a sentence using those words and a descriptive adjective. For example, you might say, the sleek silver Honda Civic zipped past me.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
It's a quick and easy way to practice adjectives, sentence structure,
Yeah.
and even verb tenses. And it turns something as mundane as reading car logos
Exactly.
into a fun language challenge.
And you can do the same thing with business signs,
Right.
billboards, or even license plates. The key is to be creative and have fun with it.
So instead of getting frustrated by that long line of cars in front of me, I can turn it into a vocabulary building exercise.
Precisely.
That's awesome.
And because those logos and signs are often visually striking, it helps to create a stronger memory association with the words you're learning.
This is making me realize that there are learning opportunities all around us. If we just know how to look for them.
Right.
Okay, what other techniques can I use to create these red light power sessions?
Another fun one is the signal light stories technique. This is all about practicing spontaneous speaking and storytelling.
Right.
Whenever the light turns red, you start a 5-word story in your head.
Right.
Then when the light turns yellow, you add another 5 words. And finally, when the light turns green, you conclude the story with the final 5 words.
So I'm essentially creating a 15-word mini-saga based on whatever pops into my head at that moment.
Exactly.
Cool.
It's a great way to stretch your imagination and practice thinking on your feet.
Right.
And it forces you to be concise and creative with your language.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like a little creative writing exercise that I can do anytime, anywhere.
Right.
Plus, it keeps my brain engaged and entertained during those otherwise mindless moments at red lights.
Precisely.
I like it.
And here's another one that's great for expanding your vocabulary.
Okay.
The 360-degree vocabulary builder.
Okay. This sounds interesting.
Yeah.
What's the 360-degree part all about?
Well, it's about using your surroundings as inspiration for vocabulary practice.
Okay.
Whenever you're stopped at a red light,
Yeah.
pick an object that you can see from your car.
Right.
It could be a building, a tree, a sign, anything, and describe it with increasing complexity as the light changes.
So, for example, I might start by simply saying building.
Yeah.
Then when the light turns yellow, I could describe it as a tall, modern office building. And finally, when the light turns green, I could give a more detailed description.
Yeah.
Like a towering glass and steel structure with reflective windows that shimmer in the sunlight.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
It's about pushing yourself to use more sophisticated language and exploring different ways to express the same idea.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like a mini masterclass in descriptive writing. All while I'm waiting for the light to change.
And here's the best part.
Okay.
These red light power sessions don't just benefit your English skills, they can also make you a safer driver.
Wait, really? How does that work?
Well, when you're actively engaged in a learning activity, your brain is more alert and focused.
Right.
And this increased focus can actually translate to better driving.
I see.
You're more aware of your surroundings, more responsive to changes in traffic flow, and less likely to get distracted.
So by choosing to engage my brain in these quick learning exercises, I'm actually improving my driving skills at the same time.
Exactly.
Talk about a win-win.
It's all thanks to the incredible power of our brains to adapt and learn.
That's amazing.
In all sorts of unexpected ways.
This is making me realize that traffic jams aren't the enemy.
Right.
They're actually hidden opportunities to improve ourselves in all sorts of ways.
Precisely.
I like it.
And we've only just scratched the surface of what's possible.
Okay, well, I'm definitely ready to dive deeper into this world of traffic time learning.
Great.
Let's see what other secrets we can unlock.
All right, let's do it. So we've talked about how those short bursts of learning during red lights can be super effective. But what about those times when traffic is moving at a snail's pace?
Yeah.
Can we still use those moments for language learning?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I often find myself getting the most frustrated when I'm stuck in slow-moving traffic.
Yeah.
It feels like such a waste of time.
I hear ya.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Those stretches of slow traffic can actually be prime learning time, too.
Really?
It's all about shifting our perspective and seeing the opportunity in those frustrating moments.
Okay. I'm open to seeing the opportunity.
Good.
But how exactly can I turn slow traffic into a learning experience?
Right.
It's not like I can whip out flashcards or start practicing conversation skills while I'm inching along the highway.
You're right. Safety always comes first.
Of course.
But there are plenty of techniques you can use that don't require taking your eyes off the road or your hands off the wheel.
Okay, good to know. I'm definitely not looking to turn my car into a safety hazard. So what kind of techniques are we talking about?
Well, one that's particularly effective is what we call crawl and call.
Okay.
Now, don't worry, you're not actually making any phone calls.
Okay.
It's all about using your imagination to create those conversational scenarios in your head.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this imaginary phone call technique.
It's simple, really. Each car around you becomes a prompt for a different conversation topic. For example, that beat-up old pickup truck might spark a conversation about car repairs or DIY projects.
So I could imagine myself calling up a mechanic and asking for advice on how to fix a flat tire.
Yeah.
Or maybe I could picture myself chatting with a friend about their latest home renovation project.
Exactly.
Cool.
And that minivan full of kids could lead to a conversation about parenting, education, or even just the challenges of getting everyone out the door on time in the morning.
Oh, I could definitely relate to that last one.
I know, right?
I love how this technique turns those random cars around me into conversation starters. Yeah. It's like I'm surrounded by potential language partners, even if they don't know it.
That's the beauty of it. It's all about using your imagination to create those immersive learning experiences, even in the most unexpected places.
So instead of getting annoyed by that slow-moving SUV in front of me, I could imagine myself calling up the driver and having a friendly chat about their travel plans or their favorite hiking trails.
Precisely.
Awesome.
And you can even tailor those conversations to your specific learning goals.
Oh, okay.
If you're working on business English,
right.
You could imagine yourself networking with other professionals at a conference.
Okay.
Or if you're preparing for a trip abroad.
Yeah.
You could practice ordering food or asking for directions in a foreign language.
This is making me realize that there's so much untapped potential in those everyday moments that we often write off as wasted time. It's all about looking at the world through a different lens, a learning lens.
I love that.
Yeah.
A learning lens. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And speaking of looking at the world through a different lens,
okay.
Remember how we talked about your commute route becoming a memory palace?
Oh, yeah. I'm totally fascinated by that concept.
Yeah.
It's like turning my daily drive into a giant memory game.
Exactly. And here's a technique that takes that idea to the next level.
Yeah.
Landmark learning links.
Okay.
It's all about associating specific learning activities with familiar landmarks along your route.
Okay, I'm all ears. How do I create these landmark learning links?
It's super simple. Just think about those landmarks that you pass every day.
Okay.
That quirky statue.
Yeah.
That bridge with the colorful graffiti. That coffee shop with the giant inflatable coffee cup on the roof.
Oh, yeah. I definitely have a few of those memorable landmarks on my commute.
Good.
They're like little checkpoints along the way.
Exactly. And each of those checkpoints can become a trigger for a different learning activity.
I see.
For example, that statue could become your vocabulary checkpoint.
Okay.
Every time you pass it,
you
could challenge yourself to think of 5 new words related to art, sculpture, or history.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
And that bridge with the graffiti could become my grammar checkpoint. Maybe I could try to identify different parts of speech in the graffiti.
Yeah.
Or come up with sentences using different grammatical structures.
You got it.
Okay.
And that coffee shop with the giant coffee cup.
Yeah.
That could be your pronunciation checkpoint. Every time you see it, you could practice saying a few tongue twisters or challenging English sounds.
This is brilliant.
Yeah.
It's like turning my entire commute into a personalized language learning obstacle course.
I love that.
Yeah.
And because you're associating those learning activities with specific visual cues, it helps to create stronger memory connections in your brain.
So I'm not just passively absorbing information.
Yeah.
I'm actively engaging with it and connecting it to my surroundings.
Precisely.
I see.
And this active engagement is what makes learning stick.
Okay. This is making me so excited to rethink my commute.
That's great.
I'm already starting to map out all the landmark learning links I can create on my daily route.
That's fantastic. And remember, you can always adjust those links as your learning goals evolve. It's your personalized learning journey.
Yeah.
So make it work for you.
This is all starting to feel less like a chore and more like an adventure.
That's the spirit.
I'm starting to see those traffic jams not as obstacles, but as opportunities for growth and discovery.
And that's the key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shifting our perspective and finding those moments of learning and joy in the most unexpected places.
I'm ready to embrace the adventure. What other traffic time learning treasures await?
Well, have you ever considered how the very act of driving itself can enhance your learning? It might sound strange, but there's actually a fascinating connection between physical movement and cognitive function.
Okay, now you're really piquing my curiosity.
Yeah.
How does driving, which is mostly about physical coordination, actually boost my brain power?
It's all about a concept called neural network navigation.
Okay.
Researchers have found that when we move our bodies, especially in rhythmic or repetitive ways, it actually stimulates the growth of new neural pathways in our brains.
Oh, wow.
And these new pathways can improve our memory, focus, and overall cognitive function.
So all that time I've spent behind the wheel has actually been secretly rewiring my brain.
It's amazing, isn't it?
I had no idea.
And the stop-and-go nature of traffic actually creates the perfect conditions for this kind of neural stimulation.
Really?
Each time you accelerate, brake, or turn the steering wheel, you're engaging different parts of your brain and strengthening those neural connections.
So it's not just about what I'm learning during those red lights and slow traffic moments.
Right.
The very act of driving itself is enhancing my ability to learn.
Precisely. It's like a built-in brain workout.
I like it.
That comes with your daily commute.
And here's a fun technique
that
you can use to further enhance this neural network building.
Okay.
Directional memory drilling.
Okay, directional memory drilling. That sounds intriguing. What's the drill all about?
It's all about associating different learning activities with different driving maneuvers.
Okay.
For example, every time I make a left turn,
Mm-hmm.
I could challenge myself to think of 5 new vocabulary words.
Right.
And every time I make a right turn,
Yeah.
I could practice conjugating verbs in different tenses.
Exactly.
Okay.
And because you're linking those physical actions to mental exercises,
Right.
it helps to create stronger neural pathways and improve your memory retention.
This is making me realize that learning doesn't have to be this separate activity that we do in a specific time and place.
Uh-huh.
It can be woven into the fabric of our everyday lives.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about finding those moments of learning and growth
Right.
in the most unexpected places.
And it's about challenging ourselves to see the world through a different lens.
Yes.
A lens that's always searching for new knowledge and new connections.
I agree.
Okay, I'm definitely ready to start viewing my commute through this learning lens.
That's great.
But I have to admit, there's still one part of me that feels a little skeptical.
Yeah.
How do I know if all this traffic time learning is actually working?
Right.
It's not like I'm getting graded on my vocabulary or my grammar while I'm stuck in rush hour.
That's a great point. It's important to have a way to measure our progress
Yeah.
so we can stay motivated and see how far we've come. This brings us to our next point.
Okay.
Measuring progress and success metrics.
Okay. I'm all about data and tracking my progress.
Good.
What kind of metrics can I use to gauge my learning while I'm on the road?
Well, one technique that's both fun and effective is the traffic light triumph system.
Okay.
It's all about turning those familiar landmarks along your route into progress checkpoints.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah.
It's like taking the idea of the memory palace and adding a layer of accountability.
Exactly.
Okay.
Remember that coffee shop with the giant inflatable coffee cup?
Yeah.
Instead of just using it as a pronunciation checkpoint,
Right.
you could turn it into a weekly vocabulary challenge.
I see.
Each week, you could set a goal to use 5 new words you've learned
Right.
in a conversation with the barista.
Oh, I love that. It's a real-world test of my vocabulary skills.
Right.
And it gives me a specific target to aim for.
Uh-huh.
And what about that bridge with the colorful graffiti?
Yeah.
How can I turn that into a progress checkpoint?
Well, that could become your monthly pronunciation progress marker.
Oh,
Each
yeah.
month, you could record yourself reading a passage of text.
Right.
Maybe something from a news article or a book, and compare it to previous recordings.
Oh, yeah.
You'll be amazed at how much progress you can make over time.
Okay, so I'm using my commute to learn English,
Yeah.
and I'm turning my commute into a giant progress tracker.
Right.
My mind is officially blown.
I'm glad.
What other techniques can I use to measure my progress?
Well, remember how we talked about dividing your commute into different segments,
Right.
like morning traffic and evening rush hour?
Yeah.
You can use those segments to track different learning goals.
Okay.
This is what we call the commuter's achievement calendar.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Oh,
How does this work?
You can assign different learning objectives to each segment.
Right.
For example, you could focus on vocabulary growth during your morning commute
Okay.
and pronunciation improvement during your evening drive home.
Okay.
Then you can use a calendar or a spreadsheet
Right.
to track your progress over time.
So I could set a goal to learn 10 new vocabulary words each morning and practice 5 challenging English sounds each evening. And then I can visually track my progress on a calendar,
Right.
marking off each day that I achieve my goals.
Exactly. It's a simple yet powerful way to stay motivated.
Right.
And see those small wins adding up over time.
I love anything that makes learning feel like a game.
Yeah.
And seeing that progress laid out visually can be incredibly motivating.
Absolutely. And speaking of motivation,
Yeah.
let's not forget the power of celebrating those wins.
Right.
Even if they seem small.
Oh, I'm all about celebrating, especially when it comes to learning.
Good.
What kind of celebrations are we talking about?
Well, it doesn't have to be anything fancy.
Right.
The key is to acknowledge your achievements and give yourself a little pat on the back.
Right.
Maybe you treat yourself to a special coffee after a particularly productive commute.
Okay.
Or maybe you listen to your favorite podcast as a reward for hitting your vocabulary goals for the week.
I love that. It's about injecting a little bit of fun and positivity into the learning process.
Right.
And those small celebrations can make a big difference in keeping us motivated.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And those small celebrations add up over time,
Right.
creating a sense of momentum and accomplishment
Ah,
that keeps you moving forward on your language learning journey.
okay. I'm officially on board with this whole traffic time learning revolution.
That's great.
It's amazing how a simple shift in perspective
Yeah.
can turn something we often dread
Yeah.
into an opportunity for growth and even joy.
It's all about embracing those unexpected moments of learning that life throws our way
Right.
and turning them into stepping stones on the path to fluency.
I'm excited to see where this path leads. What other traffic time learning secrets are you ready to share?
We've covered a lot of ground today exploring how to turn traffic time into learning time. But there's one more key ingredient we need to talk about.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's this secret ingredient that's going to take my traffic time learning to the next level?
It's the power of community, you see. Learning a language doesn't have to be a solitary pursuit.
Oh, I totally agree. I've always found that connecting with other learners can be so motivating and inspiring.
Exactly. And there's actually scientific evidence to back this up. Studies have shown that learners who are part of a supportive community are more likely to stick with their goals and achieve success.
That makes sense. It's like having a built-in cheering section, encouraging you to keep going even when things get tough.
Exactly. And when you share your wins and challenges with others, it makes the whole learning process feel more enjoyable and rewarding.
So how can we tap into this power of community, especially when we're talking about learning on the go during those often isolated moments in traffic?
Well, that's where technology comes in. There are so many amazing ways to connect with other language learners online, no matter where you are in the world.
I'm thinking of things like online forums, social media groups, language exchange apps. There's a whole world of virtual language learning communities out there.
Exactly. And many of these communities are specifically geared toward people who are learning English. You can find groups for people at all levels, from beginners to advanced speakers.
So I could connect with people who are working on the same skills as me, maybe even people who are using similar traffic time learning techniques.
Absolutely. And these online communities can provide a wealth of resources and support. You can get tips from more experienced learners, share your own strategies, and even find language partners to practice with.
I love that. It's like turning those isolated moments in traffic into opportunities for connection and collaboration.
Precisely. And it's not just about finding support online. You can also create your own learning community right in your own neighborhood.
Oh, that's a great idea. I'm picturing a group of us meeting up at a local coffee shop before our commutes to share our learning goals and strategies for the week.
Exactly. Or you could even organize a carpool study group where you take turns driving and leading learning activities during the commute.
I love that. It's like turning our cars into mobile classrooms, sharing the learning journey together.
And here's a thought-provoking question to leave you with.
Okay, hit me with that question. I'm ready to do some more thinking about this whole traffic time learning revolution.
What if we started seeing traffic not as a problem to be solved, but as an untapped resource, a hidden opportunity waiting to be unlocked?
That's a powerful reframing. I'm starting to see how those hours we spend behind the wheel, those hours that often feel lost or wasted, can actually become a source of personal and professional growth.
It's all about shifting our mindset and seeing the world through a different lens, a lens that's always searching for new knowledge, new connections, and new ways to make the most of every moment.
So to all our listeners out there, I encourage you to embrace those traffic jams, to turn those moments of frustration into opportunities for learning and growth.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey. There's a whole community of traffic time learners out there ready to support you, inspire you, and celebrate your wins with you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of traffic time learning.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights and practical tips that you can start using on your next commute.
And be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more fascinating deep dives into the world of language learning and beyond.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode. Share your comments below and tell us about your own experiences with learning on the go.
And until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep embracing those unexpected moments of growth no matter where you find them.